This is Joe narrating a PowerPoint in Social Studies. In the unit on Geography and the World, it's Lesson 6, Using Resources Wisely. This is found on page 480 in the Kaplan book. This lesson is similar to the lesson we had in science, talking about sources of energy. The new vocabulary includes the phrase sustainable use, conservation, the difference between renewable and non-renewable energy resources. Fossil fuels are non-renewable, and solar, wind, and water power are renewable. Ecosystems, the idea of biodiversity and what endangered species are. And we'll talk about the ozone layer. So here's a diagram showing the difference between renewable energy sources and non-renewable energy. With renewable energy, there is a continuous supply of the energy. For example, the sun will not run out of energy for another 4 billion years. We can use hydropower energy, falling water in dams. We can use biomass like wood. We can use geothermal energy. We can tap into the heat under the surface of the earth to supply us with heat and electricity, and we can use wind energy. The non-renewable energy forms on the right are the things we're familiar with, like oil, coal, and natural gas, because they will eventually run out, and also nuclear energy, because our supply of materials that can be used as nuclear fuel will also run out. These are oil derricks, which are pumping oil out of the earth. At some point, these oil derricks will run dry. This is a quaint windmill in the Netherlands. So the wind turns the blades of this fan-like device, and then you can do work or make energy out of the turning of the blades. So scientists have developed this to a greater efficiency. So this is a wind farm out west where you have giant wind turbines turning wheels, which will then make electricity by turning a loop of wire between two magnets. Some people have even had the idea of putting these wind turbines much higher up in the atmosphere to capture the greater flow of air to turn the fan blades. Electricity would then flow down the wires to the earth. About 200 million years ago, there were probably about 10,000 humans in the whole world. Now there are over 7 billion humans in the world. They use resources, but they also put pressure on other forms of life. Some of these forms of life will become extinct, which means they no longer exist. For example, this is a classic photo or a classic drawing of a dodo, which is a bird that was found in islands off the east coast of Africa. When humans discovered the island, the humans ate the dodo, and the rats which were introduced to the island by the humans on their ships ate the eggs of the dodo, so the dodo does not exist anymore. We talked in science, and your book talks about the stratospheric ozone layer. So there are two layers of ozone in our atmosphere. The one in the stratosphere is a protective layer. It blocks the harmful rays of the light, so it decreases our chance of getting skin cancer. So that layer is good for us. The lower level ozone layer that's near the surface of the earth is contributed by burning of fossil fuels, and this ozone layer gets in our lungs, irritates our lungs, and can exacerbate lung diseases like asthma. So we would like to limit our levels of surface level ozone by avoiding or decreasing the use of fossil fuels. When we decrease our use of energy resources, we're conserving energy resources for the future. When we conserve energy for the future and for our children and grandchildren, we can achieve a level where our energy use is sustainable, meaning it won't be destroyed in the future because of overuse today. For example, here's a forest about 300 million years ago in this drawing from someone's imagination. These plants and the animals that lived in this area would die off, and in certain conditions they would be buried underneath the earth. So on the left here you see a diagram of the Earth's history going back in time from the top of the diagram on the left to the bottom. You see that the Earth is about 4,500 million years old, or 4.5 billion years old. We break up the history of the Earth into different time periods called eons, and then smaller time periods called eras. On the right hand side of this diagram, the Paleozoic and Mesozoic eras and Cenozoic eras are magnified, so you can see more recent times, which still go back pretty far in time. For example, on the right we go from the current time on top back over 500 million years ago on bottom. The plants and animals that formed our current supply of fossil fuels like coal and oil were deposited during the Carboniferous period, marked by this arrow. It's called the Carboniferous because it generated the fossil fuels that now are releasing carbon when they are burned today. So the conditions for generating more coal probably existed only briefly and will not repeat. On the left here you see a forest. As these plants and animals die off over many millions of years, and with the heat and the pressure from inside the earth, these plants and animals would get turned into fossil fuels like coal. Peat and lignite are other fossil fuels that are less efficient than coal. This diagram shows the formation of oil and gas deposits underneath the ocean. Tiny sea plants and animals died 300 to 400 million years ago. Layers of sand and silt build up over these animal remains, and this intense pressure and the heat from deep in the earth turn these remains into the oil and gas deposits which we drill for today. Again, they will eventually run out, so the use of oil and gas deposits for fuel is non-sustainable because it will eventually run out. That's it.